Joining me now from the Biden campaign, senior advisor Karine Jean-Pierre. Karine, good to talk to you again. Always a pleasure to see you. Why do you think Trump has the edge on Biden on that issue of enthusiasm for a moment? And what is the Biden campaign doing to close that gap?
So here's the thing about that. Yes, enthusiasm is important. We are still 4.5 months away from the election. But here's the thing. Donald Trump is shrinking his base. He's not extending it. He's not building a coalition. We are building a coalition and reaching out to key constituencies because we know what it's going to take to win in November. Just 2 weeks ago, we went up with ads in 6 states that Donald Trump won in 2016. Why? Because we're playing offense. In 2 of those states, Florida and Arizona, we went up with Spanish language ads. And we also made sure we drilled in on African-American media. So we understand what it's going to take. It's going to take building a coalition. It's going to take making sure that we ask for everyone's vote. And I've said this before, and I'll say it to you, Eamon. Donald Trump has the power of the incumbency, and still Joe Biden is leading him in every poll. But we understand that polls will go up and polls will go down. The most important poll will be the poll on Election Day.
Yeah, and so to that point, let me just ask you really quickly about the polls. Yesterday, the former vice president talked a little bit about the polls, and most national and state polls, as we just mentioned there, they show you in the lead, in a commanding lead. How much stock is the campaign putting into that data?
No, we're just focusing on the job at hand. We have to continue to reach out to every voter. I mean, we are like, this is great. It's wonderful to see polls where you're leading. Absolutely. But I've been in this game for a really long time. Joe Biden has been in this game for a really long time. Our campaign has. We have great folks on the campaign, and we understand that you can't pay attention to polls right now. It is still very early. Like I said, polls will go up. They will go down. We have to make sure that we are asking everyone for their vote and building that coalition that will lead us to a win on November 3rd. That is the key. That is the important thing at hand right now.
The vice president yesterday also addressing the topic of picking a vice president. That USA Today Suffolk poll that we talked about said or found that 35% of Democratic voters said it was very important that Biden choose a woman of color as a running mate. 37% said it was somewhat important. I'm curious to get your thoughts. How does the former vice president answer that question? Does he think it's very important or somewhat important that he choose a woman of color?
So I'm going to step back for a second, Eamon. Look, Vice President Joe Biden said very early on in the primary that he was going to pick a woman to be on his ticket for VP if he had the pleasure of being the nominee. And I think that says volumes. That says that he cared to make sure that his ticket looked like the country and represented who we are. And so having a woman on the ticket is incredibly exciting. And who he picks, honestly, Eamon, is going to be up to Joe Biden. He understands this process. He has said himself even yesterday it's going to be someone that he can govern with, someone who is going to be simpatico to him. And he has been there. He knows what it looks like to be in that position. And in everything that Donald Trump has put us in this hole that he's put us in, it's going to take everything we can to dig us out come January when if we are given the presidency, Joe Biden will be able to do and be able to lead on the first day and have his VP there leading with him.
Karine, let me give you a chance to respond to something the Trump administration said yesterday. And obviously, we noticed that former Vice President Joe Biden took questions from reporters for the first time in nearly 3 months. The Trump campaign, as I mentioned, said that it shouldn't be a news event in itself that Biden took questions from the press. That it's notable is embarrassing for him. This is something a national candidate should do as a matter of course. What is your reaction to that?
Look, this is just what they're doing, right? It's a distraction. I mean, yesterday you had the press secretary saying that Donald Trump reads his briefing. Of course, he should be reading his briefing, especially his intelligence briefing. I mean, this is just what we hear all the time. It's this comparison that makes no sense. Let's focus on the issues. Let's focus on the policies at hand. Look, this is July 1st. In January, Donald Trump was briefed about the coronavirus. Joe Biden wrote an op-ed warning about the coronavirus outbreak. And look where we are today, 6 months. We've lost 6 months because because Donald Trump refuses to do his job. He refuses to lead. He refuses to show what is he going to do for this country. We see tens of millions of people losing their jobs because of coronavirus. We see more than 128,000 people who have died in this country because of coronavirus. And what does Donald Trump do? He sticks his head in the sand and say, don't look over here. I am not to blame, and slows down testing. That is what we should be talking about. This is what is the main urgency right now. We are living in a global pandemic, and Donald Trump refuses to lead. And that's what it was all about yesterday that Joe Biden was talking about. He put forth what he would do if he was president, making sure that there is more testing, making sure that federal government increases that, making sure that PPE is available for essential workers, making sure that our most vulnerable population, seniors, the Black community, brown community, and Native communities are protected, making sure that we come up with a real plan on how to reopen the economy, and also making sure that we are laser focused on how to treat this virus, on treatment and vaccine. That's what Donald Trump should be talking about. That's what he doesn't want us to talk about. And this is where we are as a country. And this is why Joe Biden is running.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.